Okay. A book published by Black Pear Press. A young adult novel written by Kevin Brooke. This extract is from chapter 1. Jimmy, the main character, has just met his friend, Dean, in the park. The two of them jumped over the 5-bar gate at the edge of the park and went into the street behind. An avenue of semi-detached houses waited for them. Jimmy shivered as a gust of cold March wind whipped at his chest, and he hid behind one of the many oak trees for protection. At least the chill in the evening air ensured it was quiet for a Saturday night. Empty streets and people hiding indoors provided the perfect scenario for their plan. Dark curtains shielded all but the edges of light in the front rooms of the suburban houses, giving Jimmy the impression of coziness behind. Why should they have it so easy, he thought. Reaching into his pocket, he took out his house key and raked the side of a black BMW. Soon they reached the sign for Abbey Street and Dean stopped by a tall wooden fence. Jimmy looked one way, Dean the other. "Ready?" asked Dean. Jimmy nodded. "You know the drill. I'll sweep, you clear, okay?" Dean spat on the ground and then stood on the street sign. His hands reached towards the top of the fence and he pulled himself to the top. "Come on then, Jimmy boy, let's go," Dean said. Moments later, his boots thudded onto the ground on the other side of the barrier. Jimmy followed his lead. He was sweeping tonight, which basically meant he was going second. They'd only hopped this street once before and they'd been chased by a Doberman in the final garden. Before they reached the dog, however, they had to get over what had become known as Beecher's Brook. Jimmy ran across the first lawn. On his left, a curtain twitched in the house and a face came to the window. For a moment he panicked, wondering whether he should go back the way he came. The clattering of boots on the roof of a wooden shed in front of him made up his mind as Dean's outline disappeared into the next garden. "What do you think you're doing?" came a gruff voice in the darkness. From the top of the house came the sound of a baby crying. Jimmy was laughing so much he could hardly get onto the wooden shed to propel himself over, but somehow he managed to clamber up. The next few fences were shorter than the first, and they hurtled over them, howling like dogs as they went. "I'll call the police!" shouted a woman from one of the windows. Jimmy twisted his body round and shouted, "Go on then, my dad's a copper." Soon there were only 3 gardens left in the street, and Jimmy did a quick calculation. If he remembered correctly, there was a short wire fence, Beecher's Brook, and the garden with the Doberman to go. Adrenaline flowing, he and Dean jumped over the wire fence before coming to an abrupt halt. In front of them stood a tall brick wall. Jimmy stared at the obstruction. It was bigger than he remembered, with fresh layers of bricks at the top, increasing its height to over 10 feet. Out of the house on the left, a large man with a bald head came into the garden, followed by a younger lad with short black hair. The man was carrying a baseball bat. "There!" shouted Dean, pointing to a tree in the corner of the garden. It had thick branches from bottom to top and looked perfect for climbing. Jimmy looked at Dean, who smiled back. "This is what it's all about," said Jimmy. Together they climbed the trees, his boughs swaying from their weight. Some of the smaller branches tugged and ripped at the sleeves of Jimmy's coat as he grappled his way up. Dean reached the top of the wall first. "Mind out," he said, but it was too late. Jimmy had already cut his right hand on one of the occasional shards of broken glass that were embedded into the concrete on top of the wall. A thin cut drew blood from the palm of his hand. Perching on the wall, he heard a dog barking from the inside of the house next door. "Go!" shouted Jimmy, and their feet thumped down onto the grass. On their left, the back door of the house opened to reveal the figure of a wiry old man holding the lead of a Doberman straining to be set free. "Who's there? I'll set my dog on you!" Jimmy's eyes searched for an escape route. In the corner of the garden was a gate with protruding slats halfway up. "Over there!" he shouted. Dean was already running towards it. Jimmy turned to see a flash of black pounding towards him, saliva dripping from the dog's mouth. Using his right foot, he followed Dean and levered himself to the top of the gate just as the angry jaws of the dog snapped shut behind them. It wasn't over yet, though. blue lights signalled the arrival of a police car just as Jimmy leapt to the pavement on the other side.